First of all, I want to say hello to everyone, and hope I can bring a smile to everyone's face. That's a good thing. And Rabbi Smith
All right, let's
suggests,
smile.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, a smile. My mother used to say, "Smile, and people, the world will smile with you." Sometimes with a smile, you could change the whole atmosphere, the whole ambiance. Everything changes. The person loosens up. So Smith suggested that I should highlight the the topics and the ideas of the chapter, and then go a little bit deeper into it. It's a good idea. So so far we started the 12th chapter of Tanya, and over here the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, talks about a person who's called a Beinani. A Beinani means he's in between the tzaddik, the righteous person, and the person who's not righteous. But according to the Tanya, the righteous, the tzaddik, is a very, very high level person. And the Rasha is not someone who's a total evil person, Rasha. No. It means that he has some bad in him. Sometimes he sins. Sometimes he doesn't do the right thing. But he still has, like we learned earlier, he has charata, he has charata, he has remorse, and he wants to do the right thing, and he tries, he's battling. But he's called a Rasha because he still commits a sin. Sometimes, and most of the time, it's inadvertently, by mistake. Sometimes also intentionally, but he's trying. So I want to mention that this week in my shul, I had an experience that I never saw before, and I want to share with you. It's regarding this situation, this what we're talking about, this topic. So there's a young man, must be around 35 years old, 40, and he is an Israeli person, and for many years he lived, not being religious, not observant, and he worked on himself to be observant. And then he got married, he has children, but he lives now in Israel. He moved to Israel, but he came here for a few weeks. He has to organize certain things. So this week, one morning, he always comes over to me after the tefillah, after davening, to say hello. And I see he has tears in his eyes. So I say, what's going on? He says, no, I'm having such a hard time fighting my Yetzer Hara, fighting my evil inclination. He wants to get me to sin. I said, so why you have to cry? I mean, okay, I understand it. We all have battles. We all have challenges. So he says, I'm trying so hard. It's just, I'm getting emotional over it because I remember when I wasn't doing the right thing. And I remember how much I invested in being more observant and more righteous and stay away from sin and sins and bad things. And look, my Yetzer Hara is pushing me back to go where I used to be, where I don't want to be. So I said, so anyway, he was emotional. He's got a little, I guess his wife, his children are in Israel. He misses them, and he's going there in a few weeks. Anyway, so what I was speaking about him in my class between Mincha and Mariv. I said, we're learning in the Talmud talks about Yosef Atzad, that Yosef was rewarded in a big way because he fought his Yetzer Hara. Because the woman, that lady, tried to attack him, seduce him, and physically not let go. And he ran out of the house because his father, Yaakov, came and said to him in a vision, in a spiritual way, he said to him, that if you commit the sin here, you're going to be left out of the Jewish people. You're not going to be part of the future. The Jewish people are going to be recorded in the Torah, and your name won't be mentioned there. You're done. You're finished. So he took all his strength and he ran away from the lady. And where did he end up? In jail for 12 years. But after that, he became the viceroy. So I said, on one hand, yes, we're very, very impressed with Yosef the Tzaddik. And that's why he's called Yosef the Tzaddik, because there was no one there. He could have easily committed the sin. Everyone was fooling around him. Why do you have to hold back? But I said, this Jew in my shul here today, who was crying that he has the same similar challenges of Yosef, he's not Yosef Atzadik. His father is not Yaakov Avinu. He's not in that level that he has the potential of being Yosef the Tzaddik, who we all know that Hashem gave him the responsibility and the opportunity to sustain the Jewish people and all the big things in Chassidus and Kabbalah. It says that he has a very high level of soul. But this Jew who is living in 2021 and is struggling to be a righteous person, he's not at that level. And he cries about it. So for me, it was a great eye-opener, an opportunity to see someone, not in Rosh Hashanah, not Yom Kippur. It's a regular day, it's a Tuesday. And he's not crying about that he doesn't have money or God forbid someone's sick. He's crying about his relationship with Hashem. He wants to be a better Jew, and he's bothered by the fact that his evil inclination, his Yetzer Hara, his bad thoughts are trying to pull him down, and he's fighting to go up. And he's upset about it, he's disturbed. So when I look at this and when I share it with you, it takes the words of the Tanya and makes it real. Because it's one thing to study the Tanya and to study Musar and to study all the halachot, the laws of the Torah. But when you see it in practical life, from a person who he's not a rabbi, he's not a personality, he's not a leader of a community, a simple person. But Baal Shem Tov says, we learned today in the Yom Yom, that the simple Jews, they have a sincerity about them, that when Mashiach comes, we will receive and be inspired much more from the simplicity and sincerity of the simple Jews. Simple Jew means person who didn't go to the yeshiva, they don't learn, they don't have all the information, all the knowledge of the Talmud. They're not people who are leaders in the community. Regular, humble people. Hashem loves these humble Jews, and including each one of you here in the Zoom that are learning with us. This is the purpose of why I'm saying this, because we have to follow the example of the great tzaddikim, who the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid, the Baal Tanya, and all the tzaddikim that we are following their direction to show special respect and special admiration, to learn good lessons and a good example from every person. And again, I want to say to you, and I sit here and I see your commitment, each one of you, for on a half hour, then goes another hour and a half of learning Gemara with Rabbi Smith, and Sunday. And there's a lot of times I'm not involved, but I know you guys are studying and you do it happily. I'm truly humble and truly impressed that I salute to all of you. I really a beautiful mitzvah, and it's a commitment, and it's something that will make a long-lasting impact. So back to the Tanya, to Rabbi Smith's suggestion, he says we should give the bullets, the highlights of what's is being discussed, what's explained here in the 12th chapter of the Tanya. So he's talking about a person who is trying their best to be righteous, but they're also being pulled on the other side. So that's called a Beinani. He never really sinned, but the Rebbe explains that even if he did sin, But right now, he's in the mindset and the feeling and the determination that he doesn't want to sin. He doesn't want to have any connection with the past sins. That's called a Beinoni. He's totally trying to be a new person. But the Yetzer Hara, Hashem didn't make it easy for us. Hashem created a system that when you try to be righteous, the Yetzer Hara is going to try to knock you down. Why? To give you more reward, to see how much harder you're trying to be righteous. Not because Hashem wants to make it difficult. God forbid. He wants to bring out the best in us. And many times when you're challenged and you have to truly work hard and labor for something, you appreciate it more. If something comes easy, you almost take it for granted. Like most of us this morning, I'm sure, thank God, we don't have trouble breathing. Did anyone think about breathing this morning, about how lucky we are to breathe? How lucky we are that we don't even have to think about breathing. The only time you think about breathing is if you're short of breath. Otherwise, you take it for granted. The same thing with your eyes. If your eyes don't hurt you, you don't think about your eyes much. If you have a little pinch in your eye, a discomfort, now you remember your eyes. Otherwise, it's going like automatic. Same thing with your ears. Same thing with your blood flow. Same thing with walking. But my friends, this is nothing to be taken for granted. Every second that we're alive and we're healthy, it's a miracle from Hashem. It's Hashem's kindness. People, unfortunately, take it for granted. They don't realize how lucky we are. You have to look sometimes, go to a hospital or go to a nursing home. You see people are not feeling well, and you'll see how lucky you are. That's on a physical level. Spiritually, also, many people can do the right thing, but they choose not to, whatever the reason is. But they're not blessed to be observant, to be committed, to be involved. So here the Alter Rebbe tells us, don't be upset and walk away and say, I'm a loser, I want to do mitzvahs, and then I want to learn Torah, and I want to pray, and every time I have a distraction, and it's difficult. So you have a difficulty. That's a challenge that you have to push harder, push stronger, go stronger to do the right thing for Hashem. And he brings here the famous line that he mentions throughout the Tanya, Lahamik machshavtoi, that a person has to put deep contemplation, meditation. There's no way that a person can be impacted deeply unless they consider the situation, whatever they're doing, in a deep thought. Otherwise, it's superficial. There's certain things that we do naturally because we know that's our existence, like food. No one has to think deeply about eating. I'm sure everyone ate this morning or drank a coffee, whatever. No one had to think much about it. Wow, I better go and let me think about it for 5 minutes. How important it is, my food. I have to really understand and study the benefit of eating. No one did that. Why? Because it's natural. Well, that's the way we should feel towards Torah. Torah is not something that you have to think much about to learn Torah. Once you learn Torah, once you start, now you'll begin to realize that your relationship with Hashem has to be deeper. But first, you have to know that this is critical to our existence. The same thing is with tefillah. Davening, give thanks to Hashem and to say thank you for everything we got, that's a no-brainer. That has to be the primary responsibility. A person should, one of the main things we always talk about, and we know what the basis for humanity is to show appreciation. So he says over here, but once you go further and deeper into the process, then it's not enough to be superficial. Then you have to go deeper and contemplate and meditate about your relationship with God and your relationship with Hashem through Torah. And if you don't know enough, then you got to study the Tanya. The Tanya will give you the tools to give you to empower you that you should be strong with your service to Hashem. Then he says that by nature, a person has the power to rule over their lusts and their desires. Hashem gave us and gives us the strength. How? Because the neshama rests in the brain. And Hashem made us that in the physiology of how we're built, our system is that the brain physically controls the whole body. So also emotionally, if a person says, I can't control myself, so if a person is really not balanced, then sometimes they need medication. Because the medication is also, it's an invention from Hashem, will calm the person down, that they should be able to accept and internalize what the brain wants to tell them. Some people, their brain is not straight, their brain thinks crooked, their brain is not wired well. So for this, you also have to surrender yourself either to your rabbi, or to a higher authority, to someone who you look up to, and they will guide you and show you what you need to do. What happens if a person didn't do that? So here he brings the famous pasuk from Shlomo Melech. That just like there is a great advantage of chachma, of wisdom, of intelligence over silliness, same thing, the light can push away the darkness. Just like physically, when there's a dark room, you have a little bit of a little match or a little candle. The room is big, and when it's dark, you don't know where you're walking, and you're tripping, and it's no good. It's negative. You bring in light, you bring a candle, all of a sudden everything changes a little bit. Why? Because that little bit of light is not competing with the quantity of the room. The room is enormous, but it's the energy of the light of the candle or whatever it is, flashlight, that now it dispels the darkness. Same thing he says, when you bring light into your neshama, which is the light of Hashem, the light of the Torah, the light of mitzvahs, this will push out the darkness. Even someone whose brain is not thinking straight and not wired properly, like he's thinking crooked and wants to do bad things and misbehaving. But if you really adopt the Torah, which is light, the Torah is called Torah Or, the light of the Torah, which is the light of Hashem, will give you the power to push out, to dispel the darkness. Later on, he talks also about that when one, what we mentioned earlier before about that there's an advantage of chachma, of wisdom over silliness. What's the silliness? The silliness is the silliness of the Yetzer Hara, that he makes you silly, he makes you foolish, he makes you do things that you know that are no good for you, are negative, and later on you're going to regret it. But you don't have the strength to say no. Comes the Torah, which is Chachma, the Chachma of Hashem, and gives you the power and gives you the tools that you could stop it. So a person should not say, I am too weak, I can't fight. You could fight. You could be strong. Not only that, you could also be a good influence on the people around you. Because we learned this, the Gemara, that every Jew is a guarantor for every other Jew. Kol Yisrael Revim Zeh B'Zeh. We all guarantors for each other. So if you ask someone to do a mitzvah and or to learn Torah, they can't tell you it's none of your business. It is my business because I need you, you need me. We are all guarantors. When Hashem gave us the Torah, He said that we all guarantors for each other. So we cannot get out of that. And just like a Jew who says, I don't want to be Jewish, God forbid. I don't care. I wasn't asked if I want to be born Jewish. That's why I don't want to follow the Torah. No one could blame me for it. It's not true. Since Hashem decided that you should be Jewish, and Hashem gave us the Torah, and there's obligations in the Torah, then you are compelled, you're obligated to do the right thing. You have free choice. But later on, God forbid, if a person doesn't do the right thing knowingly, it doesn't work out. There's a lot of people that they regret it. But let's talk about the positive. So the positive is that every Jew, he says here that in the chapter 12, every Jew in the neshama has a burning fire for Hashem, which is the love. It's called Ava Misuteres. It's a hidden love. And this love, this hidden love is something that really we see even people sometimes who are not observant. Like this week, I met a guy, he's very far from the Torah. But yet, he was telling me that he told someone else, a Jew doesn't do this. I wanted to ask him, you don't even, you don't practice. Why? But I didn't tell him that. I wanted to make him feel good. I was proud of him. Even a guy who's not keeping the laws, but he has Jewishness in him. And he'll say it and it'll come out. So this great hidden love that we all have in our neshama for Hashem, this is the true driving force, like the machine, the engine that drives us to learn Torah, to do mitzvahs. So when a person, the Gemara says, when does a person sin? Only if he has a foolishness coming into his head. So how do you fight that foolishness? By learning the and understanding that the Gemara says that the Yetzer Hara, I think I mentioned this the other day, is like he's like a sneaky guy. First he gets you to sin, then he testifies to Hashem that you sinned, and then he becomes the executor. Hashem says, go and punish this person because you know that they sinned. So who are you going to listen to? Your enemy? You don't listen to your enemy. Your enemy is totally negative. You run away. You want to be in a good company. You want to be with good people. You want to be in the company of the angels and the neshamas that are righteous. And finally, the final thing I want to say is that, I don't know, someone sent me yesterday a WhatsApp. I didn't have a chance to confirm it. That one time they asked Professor Einstein by the end of his life, what are the things that he regrets? And one of the things he said was he wished that he would study more Talmud. Because he says that there's a lot of wisdom, a lot of brilliance and guidance that's in the Gemara and the Talmud, and the rabbis who spoke in the Gemara over a period of 300-400 years, starting from the Mishnah till the end of the Gemara. These rabbis were truly holy sages who understood the psychology of man. They also related to reality of life, and they knew the challenges. And we think we're smart because we could, we have modern technology and modern medicine, which is all good. But the basics has to go back to our roots, to our founding fathers, so to speak, from our sages. And because That never changes. That's why we see that with all the technology and all the modernity that we have, the world is not a better place. There's plenty of fighting and plenty of jealousy and plenty of animosity and take the Holocaust for example. They created machines to kill people in mass murderings. So it didn't turn out well. All the technology was used to destroy human lives. So that's not a good thing. That's a very negative thing. This comes back to knowing that those of us who want to be truly happy and positive and to live life to its fullest, and with knowing that you're doing the right thing for Hashem, and to also be happy and with your family and your friends, it has to be a wholesome, a package deal. It has to be that we do the right thing for Hashem, and we're also know how to get along with each other, and to find a middle ground, to reconcile, and to always ask for guidance if we are not sure. If you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, ask someone who's older or wiser, and do the right thing. At this time, it's 10:26. We still have a few minutes. If anyone wants to say some remarks or ask a question, please go ahead.
I have a question, Rabbi. Do the Chabad rabbis believe that we're living in a life of darkness right now?
Definitely, we're living in darkness, but we also are living in a time that we have unprecedented opportunities for light. That means as Hashem will not just drop us in the middle of the darkness and tell us to figure it out. But it says clearly, I heard from the Rebbe many times, it's a choshech chaful b'chupol. It's a quadruple darkness. The outside, people don't know what's right, what's wrong, and we also have plenty of holy dvarim, holy teachings in all languages to give us the guidance and to know what to do. And we see a lot of miracles. So both exist; they coexist. As big as the darkness is, there's also greater light to counter it and to neutralize it.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Okay, another 2 minutes. And by the end of this chapter, the Alter Rebbe discusses about something that's connected with how to take the lesson of the brain, the moyach, to control your feelings. How does it also extend to another person? If another person wronged you, another person hurt your feelings. Sorry. So sometimes they took something, they abused you. How do you deal with it? So it's not so simple. It's not a blanket statement to know every situation is different. But in general, we have to try to reconcile. And he says we have to learn from Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef, instead of hurting his brothers and taking revenge from them who hurt him, they sold him as a slave, they abused him, they beat him up, they got rid of him. He said when they came down to Egypt and when he met them, he revealed himself to them. He said, I'm not angry at you. How could you not be angry? It's not human nature. He said that he sees it all in hindsight. It was all a plan. Hashem wanted all this to happen. Now, this is very complicated because, yes, if Hashem wanted it to happen, but still the people who perpetrated the crime or the damage have to pay a price for it, because they didn't do it because Hashem wanted them to do it. They did it because they decided to do it. However, the victim has to know that everything that happens for a reason. Now, I want to tell you that I myself, for many years, have, has gone through different challenges, like each one of you. And this section of the Tanya has always been an inspiration to try to alleviate, to make it easier for me to forgive people who hurt me and spoke bad about me. And maybe I spoke bad about them also. Could be. That's what it is. That you get back your own medicine. How you treat others. That's how you get it. Unfortunately, that's the reality. But we don't like to think about it because most of us think that we're self-righteous. But this part of the Tanya, which we'll continue more about on Sunday, God willing, is an eye-opener to a lot of relationships that could be saved and could be fixed if we will listen, if both parties want to listen and accept the words of the Tanya, which he brings from the Zohar. We can help a lot of people. Of course, once again, there are extreme cases, like someone who sexually assaulted someone or abused someone, pedophiles and all that. That's a different category. Those people, we're not, we don't expect them to just say, "Oh, hi, how are you? Yes, I'll be a friend. I'll forget." That's a very difficult situation, but those are extreme cases. We're talking about general situations of people arguing and insulting and hurting each other's feelings, or they couldn't get along in business. There is the 90% of the situations can be reconciled if both parties will adhere to the teachings of the Torah through the Tanya, through the Zohar, and from the example of Yosef with his brothers. So I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, a blessed day, and a happy Shabbos and a nice weekend. And we'll see each other, God willing, Sunday morning.